This sitting is now resumed. Prior to the suspension for lunch, this Honourable Chamber was debating the resolution in relation to the acceptance and adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee 2013 to 2018. Honourable Member for St. Michaelis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks very much for giving me the little break on my journey from the small room here to make my contribution to this debate. I know that the debate is centered around the report of the Public Accounts Committee, and it is important that we look at that report, which appears to me exclusively focusing on some of the metrics surrounding the Ministry of Housing and Lands. But the lessons from that report and the ignoring of that report form the lens for a historic journey of the importance of what these reports mean to the average man in the street. And while we are focusing on that report and the manner in which members of Parliament ignored the institutionalization of the committee itself and its functions then and still existing now, I think it is tantamount to the ignoring and the breaching of a number of fundamental principles, which also constitutes the importance of the mandate that was given to us when we became the leaders of this land. Sir, we came from an oppressive society, and our people had to endure many different cruel forms of felonious inflictions. And as a consequence, the people used the only instrument, physical instrument that existed in the 1930s. And I prefer to start there, but obviously the history precedes the 1930s. But it was as a consequence of the social and economic conditions in the middle of that, or rather the first quarter of that century, the 20th century, that the people out of the 1937 uprising, I will forever make reference to this important historical point in our lives because it is the mandate that was given to us. For those who don't know what I mean by us, search your conscience. Because people did all kinds of things to us prior to the 1930s. And our responsibility was to stop that kind of criminal activity. People kept us landless, sir. People kept us almost homeless. People kept us in the almshouse. People kept us without a sound education. People kept us in a state of an unhygienic state across the so-called ghettos in the working class communities on the rablands of the plantations. and in the territories, and especially in the city of Bridgetown. And there was no electoral process that embraced us then. The people control everything. And you have to understand the importance of this historic moment and why that first report, evolving out of what was reported by the ordinary people in this country through the Dean's Commission and the Mons Commission, why that report was so significant. I will make a marriage between the 1930s and where we are in 2018. Because people expected the people who they gave power to deliver, and contributed to the humanization of the society itself. They expected us to bring progressive legislation on the agenda, and where people get involved in injurious conduct, that we will have a judiciary which will preside over not malfeasant felonies. Because when you breach the mandate where people sacrifice their lives to change the course of action by government and vested authority in the hands of ordinary black people in this society, they didn't expect to be raped and abused. They never expected it. And therefore, these people who constituted government, these people who we unfortunately have to describe as human beings, these people broke and breached fundamentally the mandate that was given to them as a result of all the lives that sacrificed, all the people who went to prison as a consequence of that specific date. And they didn't expect men would be stealing. They didn't expect that these men will steal and never were punished, or are likely not to be punished. They didn't want to hear anything but who went to this institution and who went to the next institution, and the cultivation of a fraternity that allows people to abuse as long as you belong to the institution. The people expect this government to take action. They expect this government to take action. And you can paint any picture. You can romanticize what the abuse that occurred and the rape that occurred. But you will have to answer to the court of the people in 5 years' time. And that is precisely what occurred on the 24th of May in 2018. No commissioner of police, no director of public prosecution thought it was their job to investigate the criminal activities that occur. This is not about a breach of a moral principle. This is about crime. This is about crime, sir. The DPP did not take action. The police that arrest men for corned beef did not take action. No, the government of the day, who got 30 seats, must understand what the 24th of May meant to the people, not to them, not what it meant to the Barbados Labour Party. It is about 74% of the electorate of Barbados saying we will swipe these people out. Most of them ought to be in jail. all ought to be in jail. But they're enjoying the best of life, regardless of how much agony poor people must face in this country. The men enjoy life. And the only government that has taken action so far is the U.S. government. How come the U.S. government knows that there was criminal activity in the sovereignty of Barbados, and the Barbados government don't know? How comes the Commissioner of Police, and the police force and the CID can determine if Prescott or anybody in this House Assembly or any poor man across this country involved in selling marijuana or break down the doors, and they did not know what the whole electorate of Barbados knew? How comes a man can defraud an employer of this country of a few $1,000s and find himself facing a charge for embezzlement in this society, exposed by the press, who enjoys the joy of flaunting things in the press about poor people, to continue to denigrate their own in order to get money, and everybody gets up early in the morning, even before they drink a cup of tea, and engage in a debate about which young man from the ghetto, which young woman snatch somebody's wallet or sell 2 or 3 pounds of ganja, and then they got to face imprisonment. How comes men drove in this country BMWs scratch off at the gate in front the eyes of parliamentarians and journalists, and we saw them driving 2 BMWs pre-election?
We take pictures.
But all of a sudden, the BMWs vanished from the face of the earth. You know, they expected that we would have taken action. But I want to tell my party this: you have to take action. You have to take action. It is not my desire, but you have to be able to interpret what occurred on the 24th of May. You have to understand what your historic purpose was as a political party. And I've heard it said, and I have said it too, this party was born out of struggle. The trade union movement in this country, born out of struggle. The establishment of the Labor Department, born out of struggle. The diseases that permeated this society gave rise to a progressive health policy over the years. All of that come from the bowels of the society, what people were experiencing and what people now expect of us. And these people breach those principles. They had no respect. I was sitting on the other side, sir. They had no respect for man or woman or even beasts. These were the most pugnacious species on the first face of the earth. They laugh at the opposition. I don't expect the opposition now taking the side of the government will behave like them. I am not going to support any activity or any program that imposes hardship on people and lay claims to ownership, because I am not part of anything like that. I work because I'm a servant of the people, and I know why I'm here. I'm not here because I want to be prestigious press clip. I'm here because the people of St. Michael's East sent me to Parliament to make life better for them in every aspect of the governance of Barbados. It is a painful experience to know, as a consequence of the raping of the state, transferring the taxpayers' money from the Ministry of Finance without parliamentary approval, with senior officers within the Ministry of Housing and Land cannot explain to Parliament, to those outside of Parliament, journalists that ought to be prudent and penetrating in their approach, never wrote a line asking how could this happen? How could a Minister of Finance transfer money to the National Housing Corporation and the Parliament of Barbados knew nothing about it? How can those who work in administration and the accounting system and NHC tell us they did not know how to enter the figure in the accounting system of the NHC because they did not know if it was an allocation to the ministry directly, if they had to pay back this thing as a loan, or if it was a grant? You think that big men who went into a university, all the men that I am talking about went to the University of the West Indies, they cannot plead ignorance, because they lay claims to being intellectually sound. And this is a basic common sense judgment in which you don't have to be an accountant or economist. You don't have to know political science or governance to know that you can't transfer money from the Ministry of Finance straight to the National Housing Corporation and ignore the people's elected parliament from having any discussion on it. No supplementary. I just give it to you. And the same people end up driving the best motor cars in this country. How can you find 2 and 3 ministers conducting business with the same corporations, simultaneously doing so, and simultaneously being rewarded for the act of doing so? Is that not cause for suspicion? Somebody must probe. Can you tell me that the structures of the judiciary in this country is so feeble that you see a man sell an egg for $2 million? You know there is an undervaluation of an egg. And you sell an egg for $2 million. Somebody say it has to be a golden egg. Has to be a golden egg. Do you tell me that judicial precedent is so weak in our system that you don't know teeth in when you see it? We have had houses, estates being built, reduction in the number of houses, and the price, the aggregate price of the construction, the development of the estate moving upward. You don't have to be the director of public prosecution to know that something happened there. We must have a system in place or an institution in place, whether it's a committee, whether it's a task force, When things like these occur in governance where taxpayers' money is stolen, there must be an organ. If not an individual, there must be an organ, a unit, that can dig deep and unearth the nastiness that existed in the governance which occurred before. If we do not talk the truth and do what is necessary, then we too will pay the price. At present, because of that kind of causality, at present, we have to send home small people because sanitation is going to track. Oh, what we got up there is survivors. You ever hear about mechanical survivors? I got 12 mechanical survivors on the road. From a fleet of 35 trucks required to service 166 square mile country, I have an average of 12 trucks working a day. And the government don't have money to buy a carburetor. But men steal money. Men steal from the consolidated fund. The transport board. The minister responsible now got to turn into a musician. All the routes, the lucrative routes, gone to the private persons. And what is real challenging to all of us is that while we would like to enfranchise our own people, is either we scrap the role of the state in a position where the Barbados Labour Party was responsible for the nationalization of the transport board, and now this Barbados Labour Party will now have to come and reverse a situation that was the position taken by the Barbados Labour Party. It'll be interesting, sir, to read the discussions when we move from the private bus owners to fully nationalizing the transport system. And tell me what we are thinking now in comparison to what the people were thinking then. We were talking about nationalizing the system. Today, we are in a difficult position. We are in a difficult position. And our own people, which entered into the economic market within the last 20 years or so, who now control the economic system, finds itself facing a number of challenges on which routes we ought to have governed by the transport board, and which route the private sector. Black men and Asiatic men. Black men and Asiatic men. I am a realist, and I don't talk foolishness about generalizations. I talk about what I have seen, and I know the history of this country. These people never had a bus in their life before they got one now. These people never became an integral part of the economy of this country. They're an integral part now. I will fight to make sure they remain an integral part. And I believe that based on the principles that I have heard exposed at the highest level of this party, that the concept of economic enfranchisement must be one of the fundamental principles on which this government must stand. We don't want to disenfranchise anybody, even though you might not have received what you have through the right means. I've said it over and over. Expand the economy and let all people, black, red, white, green, pink people if you want to, let everybody have a share in the economy. But I am not supporting anything that say one in and one out. let our people enjoy something. And if all of us are here that are of different shares of one commonality, don't understand why we're here. Mr. Speaker, you understand what I'm talking about, this mandate that we had from the 1930s? You understand how when we read these reports, people are saying to us, is a message saying to us, redress the imbalances in this system. Give us an opportunity. And when they did not do it in the 1930s, the people turned the soil up. That's what we call the revolution of the 1930s. The people did not do it that way on the 24th of May, 2018, but they turned the soil up again. And we got to be able to read it. You don't see it in letters, you don't see it in a picture, but you live it. And you hear what people are saying on the streets every day. So although people dodge going before the institution of the Public Accounts Committee and answering the charges, although people use lawyers that are held in high esteem in this country to ensure that the people who control and were responsible for the Public Accounts Committee could not get a chance to probe and to determine how these things were done and to find out which bank locally or overseas that surplus wealth is deposited in. Because I don't know if people got safes in the floor. I don't know if they got safes in the wall or behind a picture. I don't know if they hide it on the cellar. But I know, or if it's somewhere in Miami on a Swiss bank, I don't even know if the Chinese banks is still Barbadian currency or U.S. currency. But I know I have seen men selling an egg for millions of dollars. I am not a fool, so I know something has gone wrong. Yet the people can't get housing in this country. NHC figures for the applications is still over 23,000 applicants for housing in this country. And black men in parliament. Black people living in cardboard houses. Modern houses made of cardboard. Barbadians. You know, the people who were responsible for the administration of this country, you know, they got empires. You know what I mean? For empires all on Holders Hill. All the way down in Westmoreland, all about down that side over there. You know, all up in St. Philip, the fastest developing area in Barbados, all in well, some might be in St. Lucia and St. Vincent too. But these men in hard times accumulated wealth. Is that not enough for us? A man's judgment, not in law, to be able to establish a prima facie case? Huh? Mr. Speaker, this is within your profession. And as a layman, I believe that I have seen enough to be suspicious. And I have seen enough to believe that the case of first instance is strong enough that somebody should be in the box.
Which box?
So I know what it is to go in the box. And you know, I know what it is to be in Coral Street.
In the dark.
In that dark. I know what it is on more than one occasion to hold up a Bible Because even as I make this speech, people out there are studying how they can criminalize me. I know what it is to have to ask the great leader of this political dispensation to come to my rescue. And sir, I know it's not the appropriate place, but I must thank you also, because you were extremely technical in ensuring that my freedom remained.
Foolishness.
So I know what I'm talking about. And I'm saying that we live a fair in this country. Even parliamentarians, and even the reluctance in this country to speak sincerely about people who had power and probably still have influence in the corners of power because of being in a lodge, being old school boys, flaunting a tie, and believe a tie gives you legitimacy to be a criminal. I know that. And some men believe that they can't get locked up because they went to certain institutions and the judges in town went to the institutions too.
Lord have mercy.
Some men believe that because there was a time in this country when every leading institution in this country was in the hands of one specific social type. One type. And you see that classism, you see the racism in this society that don't want anybody to talk about. I wish you don't believe it's a science itself to understand it. It's a science itself. These are victims of a scar, a psychological scar, that make sure that they will continue to dominate through a divide and rule principle. And when ordinary people will like...
Your Honourable Member has 2 more minutes.
Sir, there are honourable people in this country. Thank you, sir. There are people in this country, small people in this country, will like the opportunity to be able to ask questions to those persons who we know, without doubt, have been involved in all forms of extortion. I saw people in the paper say, I'm not coming back to Barbados again because no minister must tell me how to spend my money or who I must give something to. It was in the Nation newspaper. And so people in this country must face realities. If we are to build a better humanity, people must face the realities. Somebody has to strip the society naked of all the vulgarity, all the criminal activities within it, and bring about the required change. It has to be done. The reason why poor people continue to suffer, why there's persistent poverty, is because there are a number of people who want to keep them in persistent ignorance too. And profound ignorance too. Because the average man can't understand.
Don't forget, sir, you have to wind up.
Yes, sir,
Member.
I'm trying to get there, but I'm a helicopter spinning in the air. The reality is, sir, that I want to land, sir, but the topography is a bit rough, and I'm trying to find for a small, smooth location to land on, sir. Right? But, sir, I really want to thank you. Because I know sometimes when I intervene, and the Honourable member of the city of Bridgetown said to me, fill a space. Whether you prepare or not, the people send you here to speak, and that's why you are in Parliament and not in a concentration camp or an amusement park. And I honour the request of the Leader of the House, sir. And at least I am happy that you have entertained me and allowed me to speak freely in a manner which I could not speak in this Parliament before. They had people in this Parliament before that were so despotic. That was so despotic in this parliament. They had people in this parliament that felt that they will never ever be out of this parliament. They had a man down in St. Michael's. Where Chris St. used to? Where down in here? They had a man down in Northwest. St. Michael's Northwest. That used to, every year at this specific time, he used to got 3 Christmas parties.
1,000 hampers.
350 hampers are over $500 per hamper in a ball house, line off in a regimental manner for young people. And then he had another Christmas party.
Flat screen TV.
500 people. Flat screen TV.
Refrigerator.
Honourable member, obviously you turn off the engine or the propeller ain't working because you haven't landed as yet.
I'm trying, sir. I'm trying, sir. And I know you're indulgent. I'm just asking you to let me wrap up in a refined way. And in addition to that, you get laptops, you get iPads, and then some people get raw cash. And all of that time, the people in Barbados suffering and cannot eat. And he felt that he was secured in here for life. And he thought that the candidate who ran against him was a Lilliputian and could not take him down. It was the people. And we must never forget that lesson. It was the people who took him down. If you bring a guinea pig, he would have still get taken down. It was a serious of that, and that is the mandate that I'm talking about. I see this Public Accounts Committee report as a microcosm of all that has been happening in this society. It relates almost exclusively instead to housing, but it speaks a lot about all that has been happening across the body of governance in this country. Sir, thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
The honourable member for St. Lucie.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I almost refrained from speaking today after such a fiery and passionate speech by the honourable member, but true speech by the honourable member for St. Michael East. Indeed, it captures what has taken place in Barbados over especially the 10-year period of the last administration. And in my brief intervention, I just want to remind the people of Barbados. As a matter of fact, let me go right back to the time when I listened and I followed the debates of this honorable chamber. I followed very closely in the news, and I know very well of the attempts of the previous administration to stall or to railroad the meetings and the progress and the work of the Public Accounts Committee headed at that time by the then leader of the opposition, now our Prime Minister, the honourable member for St. Michael Northeast. And as a citizen of this country, I was appalled at the fact that a body of people selected by this honorable House, a body of people who were sent here by the people of Barbados, and these people were selected by this honorable chamber to be the watchdogs of the accounts of the funds, the people, the taxpayers' money of this country. And a government then which ought to be responsible and responsive, did everything possible, Mr. Speaker, sir, to hinder the work of that committee. And as the report, as a matter of fact, I recall a bill or resolution coming to this House, I think by the Honourable Member for St. Michael South then as the Prime Minister, to stop the findings of the Public Accounts Committee from being made known to the public. I remember that well. And if it is the public's money you are spending, if the people of Barbados were paying their taxes and had entrusted to you the affairs of this country, allowing you to run the affairs of this country, then I ask myself the question then, why was the Public Accounts Committee, which was doing its work, why would stumbling blocks being placed in their way of letting the people of Barbados know what was happening? And without going into details today, Mr. Speaker, sir, I found that behavior to be callous, wicked, and reprehensible. Let me use that word. It was irresponsible of any government to keep the affairs of the government out of the spending of the government out of the eye or the knowledge of the people of this country. A process that was frustrated. And we see today, Mr. Speaker, sir, this has affected all aspects of Barbadian society. And the people of Barbados must feel justly aggrieved and annoyed and vexed at what has happened. But they are asking us to go further today, Mr. Speaker, sir, because they voiced and they showed in no uncertain terms on May 24th how they felt about what was happening in this country. You had, and this needs to be repeated because I'm going to say something else down the road in my speech. You had a government that clearly showed it did not care whatever happened. They did as they pleased, and they thought that they were not accountable to anybody, not even perhaps, sometimes I think not even to God. They felt that they were not accountable in any way at all. But the people of Barbados showed them clearly that they were. But above and beyond that, Mr. Speaker, the people of Barbados are now saying to us as the new administration, it is therefore time for action. For having affected every aspect of Barbados' development by their actions, road infrastructure, and I can talk about road infrastructure because as the minister in the Ministry of Transport, Works and Maintenance, and based on the tours and the visits that we've done to some constituencies already, we see where the lack, nothing was happening. And I can talk because you can imagine that we had programs. We had programs coming from the IDB for development and upgrades of places like Allen View and Cat's Castle and Garden Land and Green Fields. And because there could be no steel in there, the projects were left to languish. And the Inter-American Development Bank took back the funds. There was no contract, there was no minister could determine who the contract should go to and what should happen, because based on the Inter-American Development Bank rules, the process had to be followed to a T. So because you could not put your hand in the cookie jar, you allow the cookies to go back to the owner. That is the kind of callous behavior we had, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm sure you would have done with some of that at the point in time. It might not have been your constituency, but it is now. And you can rest assured, Mr. Speaker, any agreement that this government goes into with any lending agency and funds are given to do work in this country, you can rest assured that this Barbados Labour Party administration and this cabinet will see that it happens as prescribed. It is not about us, Mr. Speaker. It is about the people of Barbados, and the people in St. Lucie sent me here, the people in St. Michael Central sent you here, the people in St. Michael East and St. Thomas sent each and every member of Parliament, whoever you are, whatever constituency you are from, here to do the business of the people, and we must never lose sight of that. I have said in this honourable chamber already, Mr. Speaker, that it grieves me and it hurts me as a young member of Parliament, knew the things that you cannot do anything basically in your constituency because of the constraints that you have as a result of bad governance. Bad governance. And I said, as we went into various constituencies, for instance, like St. George South and St. George North, and we went into St. Andrew and the constituencies in St. Philip, and we saw what happened, what is happening there in terms of road infrastructure. Nothing being done, Mr. Speaker, sir. And every day on our phones as ministers, myself and the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, as ministers, the complaints come about the potholes in the road. A ministry. And I say to myself, Mr. Speaker, it is not strange that in the last 10 years, the decade of decadence, for the first 5 you had one minister responsible for housing, and then you had the same minister responsible for transport and works. It is not strange, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, that these two ministries are the ones most hamstrung today. Most hamstrung. The Ministry of Transport and Works and the Ministry of Housing, the National Housing Corporation. Having by the same minister, not a bus. The most thing you get is a bus mouth. Skullduggery. And this thing hurts me because we have to correct the wrongs that were done, and it is not an easy task, and we are not shirking from our responsibility, Mr. Speaker, because we are going to get the job done. We are going to get the job done. And one of the jobs I want done, I honestly, and I cannot refrain from saying this, I want to see a man going across the courtyard. Remember, I spoke about LEC. And the people of Barbados lifted up every candidate.
Go ahead.
The people of Barbados caused them to lose every constituency. And therefore now it is incumbent upon us as a government to lock up every crook. We have to do the LEC. We have to do it. Lock up every crook. And I want to call on the people of Barbados. Now listen to me. Mr. Speaker, sir. The past government did not just do it by themselves, so to speak. In some instances, I know that persons, the public servants, were railroaded into doing things. Bypass. I can say to you, I can say to this honorable house, in our ministry, we have management meetings every week. And you know what they tell us? Ministers didn't used to come to anything, so they used to come to management meeting, but directors were given do this, do that, and public servants felt really threatened in some instances. But we are not going to rule or govern by fear. We're going to do what is right. We're going to be fair. But what has happened in this country in the past 10 years must never be repeated. And we have to do something about it because the people of Barbados expects us to. But I'm saying to the people of Barbados, where you are aware and you know for a fact, do not be afraid. Come forward with whatever evidence and help us. Come forward with whatever evidence that you have and help us perform the last LEC. That is what we want. Because this government has the intestinal fortitude to do it. I don't think that we are afraid. It's nothing friends about this. It is about the people of Barbados. It is about the people of St. George South and Christchurch West and Christchurch East and St. Philip South and St. Lucie. It is about those people that are out there suffering now. Or youngsters that cannot get work and all sorts of because the money was misused and abused. It was an abuse of power. And thievery.
Is that a word? Honourable member, is that a word in the English language, sir?
I sometimes create my own dictionary. And I add that.
One speaker, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir. So you had, and I'm talking about these things that have been affected as a result of this behavior. The road infrastructure, transportation services. You imagine a government could be, that people could be in government and for over 10 years, not a single bus could have been bought, not one. And you had so much money, and you had a national debt moving from 6 billion to 15 billion, but not one single bus bought for the service of the people of this country. You can imagine that, and people suffering. And every morning, or sometimes my colleague, the honourable member for St. Thomas, calling, frustrated about the service in her constituency. And it's not only her constituency, it is in my constituency. It affects the constituency of St. Peter. For the honourable member for St. Peter, all across where the public transportation system is required, especially from the transport board, there are complaints, and for 10 plus years, not a single bus was bought, but the national debt of this country moved from 6 billion to 15 point something billion, and then an additional $9 billion. And you don't understand. You don't know where it's gone. You don't understand where it has gone, Mr. Speaker, sir. The living standards of the ordinary person, the living standards of the ordinary Barbadian has taken a nosedive in that period of time. And we are now trying to restore. We are now trying to bring back. We have had to take some tough measures, not because we wanted to, or we don't take any joy in doing it. We don't take any joy in doing it, Mr. Speaker, sir. But it has to be done in order to set this country back on a growth path and to save the Barbados dollar. And we must let people know how important this is, because we were on the brink. And I say every day, thank God for May 24th, and I thank the people of Barbados for giving us the opportunity to help them and to save our country. To save our country. I showed two of my colleagues today. The honourable member for St. John and the honourable member for St. Michael South. I got a copy, as a matter of fact, I'm going to check there. How did that envelope there? The one in the clip. The one in the clip, right. Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know if I could make this a document of the House.
No, I won't want to.
I want to thank my colleagues. I showed to my colleagues today.
I won't want to.
Income tax return. Income tax return for 2017. I don't even think I can cash it. I might frame it. I might frame it. I'm not seeing one of these in years.
Honourable member, that is your income tax return, sir?
Yes, it is. And you want me to tell you how much it is?
No,
Mr. Deputy?
yes, yeah.
Mr. Speaker?
Yeah. Yes, honourable member. Is that your official income tax for 2017, sir?
Yes.
You're making it a document of the House.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it is down to, and I can say it is down to being over $1,000+ to $81.22, but money nevertheless. So.
Continue, honourable member.
But I am happy, Mr. Speaker, sir, to be a part of a government that is working on the behalf of the people, and we are willing to take this stick and no, but we have to let people know what has happened, what has transpired, and we are doing our best to fix it. We have faced it like men and women, took the tough decisions, and we are not out of the woods yet. We are not yet out of the woods, but we are pressing on. But really and truly, it is not fair to the people of Barbados that they have to go through a little more hardship now, and they got men that cause it out there running boat free. I agree with the honourable member for St. Michael East. I don't want them in the States, I want them here. I want them here. I want the local ones that the people of Barbados can look up in the face. We ain't gonna wait on CNN or Fox News or any of those American news channels to see them. We can look way up. We can go down by the court. Like how if a man from Crab Hill getting problems, they run by the station and they sit everybody there looking up in the face and knowing who they are. I want to be able to do the same thing for some of the honourable members that formed the government that left this house, that the people of St. Lucie, Paycorn, the people of St. Michael West Central, the people in the city of Bridgetown can come up and go and look in their face and say that yes, it is you that caused us this, and you got to pay. Jackie Opel used to sing. That is what. And I am sure, and if it is only but one for the people of Barbados. And I support this resolution. I support this resolution here, Mr. Speaker, sir. As I said, these things must never be allowed. As a matter of fact, I am certain that this government under the present leadership of the honourable member for St. Michael Northeast, we will never sink into that sort of behavior at all. We are accountable and remain accountable to the people of Barbados. And we have been told in no uncertain terms. As a matter of fact, we have taken steps already in terms of the integrity legislation. You can imagine that people pass legislation in the House. A government passed legislation in the House. And going out of office and the legislation didn't get proclaimed up to now. You understand what was happening? Why were they so afraid? And I like the point made by the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, because if you parade with Mercedes it was, right? BMWs. Mercedes, oh good. Both, good. You parade with them, and Parliament scratch off. And now, they're just gone because they realize people serious. Realize people serious, we are serious. And I want to commend this government for what it has done thus far, and for bringing at least this report, because this report that was laid in this House should have been laid ever since. But obviously a government is not going to do anything that would incriminate them. But the people of Barbados, it is online, people of Barbados can read and they know and they understand. And I am happy to support it today. And I will be happier in closing, Mr. Speaker, if at some point in time down the road we can have the LEC. I will be a happy man, and the people of St. Lucie will be happy too. I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for St. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am not going to detain the House very long, and my approach is going to be maybe a little bit more reflective, because what we are discussing here today and this afternoon is something really, Mr. Speaker, that represents a stain on an otherwise proud heritage and legacy for a small country that has touted itself, but also has been seen as one of the leading developing countries in this world. And that stain has impacted not just the country and the view of the country held by people people outside of the country, in terms of our regional and international neighbors and colleagues and those who follow what is happening in Barbados. But that stain has also impacted those of us who have made decisions to come to public life. And one day in Mount Brevotor, Mr. Speaker, I had just canvassed a lady, and as I was leaving her house, she took about 2 or 3 steps after me, and she asked me a question. The kind of question that you would expect somebody to ask me. It wasn't that question. She asked me, she said, Mr. Jordan, and I'm just quoting, I know you don't use names in here, I'm just quoting what she said. She said, Mr. Jordan, why a nice young fella like you gonna get involved in this politics thing? That is exactly what she asked me. And Mr. Speaker, yes, even to older people like the Honourable Member for Christchurch East, she did consider me to be young. That question, Mr. Speaker, spoke volumes to me. It said to me that the people of Barbados had come to associate the call to public life as a move from decency to indecency, from moving from light into darkness. And Barbadians are now very concerned about how parliamentarians, how politicians conduct themselves as managers of the public's business. They are concerned, and many of them have voiced to me, including many in St. Peter. They are concerned that while they were hurting, a few people seem to be living large. As we would say in St. Peter, getting through licking. While they were suffering. And they are saying to me now, and I've heard some of my colleagues say that they also are being told that at this point, when some of them are losing their livelihoods, at this point, when some of them still have pit toilets in their yards, that there are people who could still be living large. And I want to join with my colleagues who have spoken before quite eloquently and passionately that the people of Barbados, and I'm just adding my voice to the chorus, and I think it is important to do so, the people of Barbados, including but especially those who are suffering and who may suffer for another few months until the economy picks up and they can be re-employed, are indicating very clearly to us that they will not accept that they have to suffer, but those who cause them to suffer go free. And I want to join, I'm not legal, but I want to join with my neighbor from St. Lucie, the Honourable Member, and support the LEC call. Those who have caused this issue in the country must be brought to justice. The reason, Mr. Speaker, why my contribution is not going to be long is because the people of this country are saying to us, as a matter of fact, even as we speak in here today, my colleague, the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, has received a response that says we are in here sitting down and standing up, doing a lot of talking. But they are saying to us that the criminals are out there walking free. Well, all except one. And so I think we have to move from...
I remember, be very careful how you coach your language in relation to the criminals out there, all except one. Remember, there's something called justice. A person cannot be deemed a criminal having not been convicted.
But
so just be careful, understood, but just be careful how you coach your language, sir.
Understood, Mr. Speaker. Right. Your comment, though, with all due respect and deference, seems quite specific, as though you are suggesting that I'm speaking about a particular person.
I never said that. I don't remember, I never said that. The term criminal it connotes a specific thing. It connotes a specific thing. Yeah. So just be careful with the word, and a criminal. You see, so just be careful.
Understood. And the courts in Barbados, even though they operate very slowly, convict persons all the time, and there are criminals that are being convicted.
That is
and
correct.
Are currently resident at Dodds.
That is so correct.
Yeah.
Very correct.
Yeah. And I could very well be referring to one of those.
Yeah, I'm cognizant of that also, Honourable Member.
Yeah. But thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, as the lead in this house. And I always thank those who are more experienced and older than me and senior to me for, bring me back in line if you think that I've gone out of line. But Mr. Speaker, the people of this country are really saying, and they did say on the 24th of May, that they want accountability returned to this chamber. Because whether we believe it or not, they were aware that the former member for St. Michael's South, just because it seems he didn't want these nefarious deeds to come to light, threatened this chamber, but also threatened the country with the idea of getting rid of the committee that was set up to engender and to monitor the whole matter of accountability of those of us in public life, especially those in the chamber. They were aware that no less a person than the leader of government wanted to disband the Public Accounts Committee. They were also aware, Mr. Speaker, that senior members of government, senior members of the cabinet, took it upon themselves to say to that committee that they were not going to attend hearings of the committee. They were aware of that. They were also aware that some, maybe a few, persons in the public service seem to have been complicit in allowing members of the cabinet, members of the government, to get away with that kind of what they consider to be bad behavior. And the result, Mr. Speaker, even though we never got it, some of us, until early in the morning of May the 25th, that result said to us, said to all of Barbados, and I've spoken to many of our CARICOM neighbors, it also said to them that the people of Barbados understood what was going on. They never wavered in their quest for accountability on the part of those that they had elected. And so when they got the opportunity to make a statement, they made a very defining statement. A statement that said they wanted to cleanse this chamber of bad behavior. They wanted to purge the system. And it was, as it were, Mr. Speaker, almost as though politics in Barbados had taken a good dose of Epsom salts. The people of this country purged the system of those who had created a blot, a stain on the good name of this country. This Barbados Labour Party has come to office understanding that the people have spoken and that they've spoken loudly. We understand that politicians and those who are elected to this chamber have been elected to manage the resources of government. And Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat something that I have said before and that I feel very strongly about. The resources of government do not reflect the resources of those who have been elected to this chamber. The resources of government do not reflect the resources of those who have been nominated or appointed in the other place. The resources of government are not the resources of those in the public service who may sign the checks or who may issue LPOs. The resources of government reflect the funds that have been placed under our management by the people and businesses of this country. And so if we are going to be true to our call and our election to be managers, then we have to view those funds, those resources, as the resources of the people of this country. And so for us, it must be repugnant when we hear of scenarios like CLICO, where one former honourable member of this chamber had, almost in panic, to distance himself from the claim that he knew about bad behavior and that he was part of it. It must be repugnant to us when we hear about Valerie and the grotto. And I remember the honourable member, when I was not here, just viewing on my computer screen, maybe when I should have been working. But I remember hearing the honourable member for St. James Central speak about the watchman and hearing vehement denials until he was able to produce, I think it was you, honourable member, documentation that indicated some of the real bad practices going on in these situations. It must be repugnant to us as it was repugnant to the people of the country when we hear about what happened at Lancaster. I have to pass there every day, and so I am reminded every day of some of these bad practices going on, taking place in the last decade. Coverly, it causes us problems, Mr. Speaker. It causes the people of this country problems when we have to think about these things. The berths in the port, the molasses tanks in the port. When we hear about terms like the 5 and 10 man, I never really did an investigation to find out exactly who it is they were talking about, but people seem quite knowledgeable that there was somebody called a 5 and 10 man. That in order to get things done, you had to pay either $5,000 or $10,000. Now, I don't know who he is, who he was, but based on what I've heard, it seemed to have been a male, because it was called a 5 and 10 man. But these kinds of things, Mr. Speaker, are repugnant to people. And sometimes people talk about them and smile or giggle. But in their hearts, Mr. Speaker, they are upset that they could elect people to office who could be so callous, who could disregard the role that they were given as managers of the people's money, and believe that they came to office to enhance their own bank accounts, to build houses and to build apartments, and to get rich off of the backs of suffering people. Those people, Mr. Speaker, should be ashamed of themselves. They really should be. But over and above being ashamed of themselves, we as a government, we as a party, we as a cabinet, those of us who are in cabinet, and the people of Barbados must continue to insist that there is accountability in the management of the affairs of this country. As a government and as a party, we believe in dialogue. We speak with people. And the Public Accounts Committee is an example of the dialogue that must obtain if accountability is to be a hallmark of what we do as a people. I've spent most of my life being an accountant. And the basic tenet of taking care of anything that is not yours is that you must be able, on hearing questions, to provide answers. Because the resources that you are managing are not your own resources. And good bankers like the Honourable Member for St. Lucie will tell you that even if the resources are yours, if you're in a business and you own the business, the Honourable Member, Leader of Government Business, will tell that as well, you still must be accountable. Otherwise your business will fold up. Accountability is a basic tenet of decent living in a civilized world. And that is why the uncivilized of the last Parliament are no longer around. And most of them seem not even willing to raise their tarnished heads from wherever they are. But the people of Barbados have made a determination that we are not going back there. And that is why I, Mr. Speaker, have really no hesitation in supporting the laying of this voluminous document in this House, and the fact that we are now able to debate something that should have been discussed in the last Parliament. We, Mr. Speaker, are stewards. We have a responsibility. We have been sent here as guardians of the people's affairs. We as a party will continue to do what we have to do to make sure that the people's resources are properly managed, that the people who sent us here to make life better for them get that realization of a better life. They understand that the Labour Party is a party that promises and delivers a better life for all the people. And so we take that very seriously, and we will do that. We will subject ourselves whenever the Honourable Member for St. Michael West, the Chair of the Public Accounts Committee in this Parliament, whenever he calls us, Mr. Speaker, we will attend. We will attend. He wants to set the first meeting to coincide with my Sabbath. But if he wants to question me, then I will appear to defend myself on my Sabbath. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, I don't think there is a better time to defend myself than on my Sabbath. And I will be happy if he sets it to 7 p.m. on Friday evening. I will be able to go to church on Saturday morning with a clear mind, clear conscience, knowing that I have appeared before a bishop and have been truthful and I'm able to praise my God with a free and clear conscience. And on that religious note, Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude with a verse used by the Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 2. And this is really my motto, and it is the motto of this Labour Party. Paul said in his letter to the Corinthians, "Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful." I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, I beg to move that the sitting be suspended for about 15 minutes until 5:15 p.m.
I second that, sir.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended for 15 minutes until 5:15 p.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber is adjourned until 5:15 p.m.